Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another quick MI short here on the MIgardener channel. This really won't qualify as an MI short because it's going to take a little bit longer to explain, but it will help out a lot of people. I had a lot of other stuff planned, and I actually had another episode lined up, but I decided that this one took precedence over that one just because of the fact that I keep getting these questions on the Facebook, the MIgardener Facebook discussion forum, and I also keep getting it on the Google Plus discussion forum over there. Is it okay if I start this? When can I start this? I started this, whatever, you know, it comes in a lot of different forms, but it's pretty much worded along the same type of thing. And I think that this topic has so much weight, but it's one of the topics that I honestly can't answer. And so I wanted to come to you all with a pretty basic foundation for something that's going to help you out, but it's also going to give you some type of foundation to go off of. This is date sensitive, so it's March 2nd, 2015. Anytime, if you are someone that's watching this after, I have to say that because I know people are watching it after today, but if you're someone that's watching it after today, the variables have already changed. So the first tip to keeping it not really date sensitive is to use common sense. If you have a tomato plant that you want to plant outside, and there is low 30s, high 20s in the future forecast, common sense would say just keep it indoors and don't plant, because regardless of what I say, the Mother Nature trumps what I say. So, you know, people down in Texas that just had that blizzard stuff come through, chances are you weren't really expecting it. The Weather Channel never really expected something like that to happen, and it kind of just came out of nowhere and took everyone off guard. So basically that can happen always. That's Mother Nature for you. So so with that in mind, just use your common sense. Now what I want to do is I want to go through 3 different topics. I want to go through onions because they are always started first, and they're kind of their own little category because they're a long-term play. They pretty much are the first thing started, and they go out in the garden and they're pretty much an all-season grow. You don't harvest them until autumn. So they're one of the ones that people really like to start because you need a lot of time to get them to full size. Then there's also the summer crops, which are consistent of peppers and tomatoes and those types of things. And then there are also the crops that are cool weather crops, that some are more cold hardy than others, but they all are kind of bundled into that cold hardy thing, which is lettuce, spinach, cabbage, broccoli, you name it, it's in there. I'm going to start with zone 9 because there's some specifics there that I want to get into. Zone 9, start everything. Just go outside. Don't wait. I've had a bunch of people from zone 9 messaging me. If you're from zone 9, get your stuff outdoors, because there might be a 1 in a million chance for a frost, but there's about a 1 in 10 chance that your plants are going to die from the heat if you wait. So don't let the risk of frost prohibit you from getting your stuff outside. Tomatoes, peppers, lettuce, spinach, doesn't matter. Throw it out in the ground. It's going to be able to mature for you before that heat comes. And once that heat comes, there's a lot of plants that don't like the heat. So I would suggest getting your stuff out. Now, people have messaged me from zone 8. What can I plant right now? Well, zone 8, you're pretty much in the same group as zone 9. You're talking like southern Texas region, parts of Florida, stuff like that. I would highly recommend planting out your cold weather crops and plan out your summer stuff, but look about 10 days in advance for your area. Pull up the Weather Channel and basically see if there's anything coming in the future. That's what I really like to do is I take the date that I can plant outside and I say, okay, I can plant outside today according to historic records. However, Mother Nature might have something in store for me in the near future. So what I'll do is I'll just pull up a 10-day forecast. Everyone knows it's not really all that accurate, but if it's definitely in the green, I would go for it. If it's like 7 days in the future and there's like a 1 degree above freezing chance, don't risk it. Just wait, and chances are it'll warm up in the near future, because it shouldn't be getting colder unless something is happening. Now, Zone 7. Zone 7 is one of those ones, I get so many from Zone 7, and it's one of those interesting ones because it's definitely a whole lot warmer in Zone 7 than it is in Zone 6 here in Michigan. So you're in the case where you probably feel like there's summer stuff ready to go outside. Plant your cold weather stuff. However, be aware that the northern zone of Zone 7 definitely has had some winter weather. So what I would recommend doing, and this is a tip that you can take or not, but I would recommend it, and that is to plant your coldest weather stuff right now. Hold off on stuff like lettuce for about a week or two to see how weather is going to progress into the season. But you're definitely safe to plant stuff like spinach and cabbage and broccoli. Lettuce is the lesser of the cold hardy stuff, and I would recommend waiting just to see if there's not going to be another cold snap. And then basically you're going to want to wait on the summer stuff about 2 weeks. Make sure, like I said, all that kind of stuff is out. I would even wait as much as 3 weeks. Again, use common sense. I would go between 2 and 3 weeks for Zone 7, and that's just what I would personally do. Now, Zone 6. Zone 6 is me here in Michigan, and we aren't ready to really plant anything out yet. I would not recommend it at all. It's early March, and we've had a lot of, we're still in the teens for the nights. So I would recommend everything starting indoors. You could have started for Zone 6, you could have started onions last week, and then that'll give you plenty of time to have a nice mature plant to go outside. Onions are the only thing that I would really recommend starting right now. And the reason being is I know a lot of people are excited to get their stuff started, but as far as like peppers and tomatoes, I would personally wait about 2 weeks to start them indoors, because of the fact that if you don't have a whole lot of space, right? If you don't have a ton of space or a heated greenhouse, you're going to run out of space, because by the time they're ready to move outdoors in mid to late April, you're going to have a foot-tall tomato plant that is branching and flowering, and you're not going to have enough room for it. It's going to be crowded, and that also is crowded in the root base, which is what I'm most concerned about. The top can look really healthy, but if you don't have gallon-sized pots to move them into, they're going to get really root-bound. So for people in Zone 6, I always suggest waiting more. I know it's really difficult to wait, and you might have smaller plants, but the fact is you'll have healthier plants in the long run if you don't have that space. Now, if you do have that space, go for it. Get them started, and get everything as big as it can possibly be, because it'll only mean more harvests in the future. But for people like me that have some really good quality grow lights and you can start them indoors, just wait a little bit, because I don't have the space. Cold weather stuff, you want to wait about 3 to 4 weeks. We're in that weird zone where the cold weather stuff almost goes out at the same time that the warm weather stuff can go out if you're really pushing your seasons. So for us, 3 to 4 weeks for the cold weather stuff to get started. Start them indoors, don't move them outdoors. I typically will move most of my cold weather stuff out around April 5th to April 10th. So that's kind of a guideline for you. It might not be, again, the same, but for us here in Michigan, on the east side of Michigan, that's typically what we do, because we're protected by the lake. So we have Lake Huron over here, and we have Lake Michigan over here, or maybe it's different, but for me, what I'm describing, it might be opposite for you, depending on how the camera works. But basically, on the east side, let's just put it that way, so I don't sound like a total idiot here. On the east side, we have Lake Huron, and on the west side, we have Lake Michigan. And that kind of acts as a buffer zone for kind of a microclimate, which is really nice. So, we can have a little bit more budge room than some people that might be out in the middle of nowhere. So again, use that common sense rule. But like I said, April 5th to April 10th, we can start looking at moving some stuff outside. So just gauge about 3 to 4 weeks to get a nice mature plant before you move outside. I probably have, I would say, the most questions coming from Zone 5, just because Zone 5, you feel like you're ready, but the reality is you're not really ready. So for stuff in Zone 5, start onions in you can probably start onions right now, I would say. I'm not in zone 5, so it's hard to tell, but I would say zone 5 is pretty safe to start your onions. Don't start your peppers and tomatoes for about 2 to 3 weeks. It's in that fringe point where you're in a position that if you start it, you might have more mature plants, but I would personally have smaller plants but healthier in the future and more yields than to have a larger plant that I don't know what to do with and I have to wait a few weeks and it's kind of in that limbo phase of do I move it outside, do I take it inside, that type of thing. And that can stress out the plant, resulting in less yields. So I would personally wait about 3 weeks, a week longer than us here in Michigan. And then your cold weather stuff, just start at about 3 weeks, about the same time we do. Just because, also another thing is that as we go further into the zones, the cold weather stuff is really not as affected as the warmer weather stuff. So we can start our cool weather crops in about 3 to 4 weeks. And then in the zone 5, you can start your cold weather stuff about 3 to 4 weeks. Zone 4, you can start your cold weather stuff in about 3 to 4 weeks, just because they can all pretty much, in the United States here, the weather just kind of flips. It goes from really cold to, okay, yeah, it's pretty much done. You might have a few degrees up and down, but it pretty much goes from like winter to spring in almost a heartbeat. So just get your stuff ready in about 3 to 4 weeks for the cold weather stuff. Now the summer stuff, again, for zone 4, wait about 3 to 4 weeks to start. You just don't want those really mature plants to be stressed out. Same rule applies though for zone 4 and zone 5. If you have the space, do it. You might as well, because your next winter is coming sooner than our winter. So you got to get a nice mature plant, but there's just that fringe you don't want to go too early. And then obviously zone 3, I feel bad for you all. I really, really do. But zone 3 has some benefits. So you don't want to start your onions yet. Wait about a week to 2 weeks to start your onions. Also with the tomatoes and peppers, this is what's kind of fun, is I would recommend for you starting your peppers about the same time we start our peppers and tomatoes. Reason being is because your frosts come so much sooner. You have about what I think like 80 to 100 frost-free days. So don't quote me on that. I'm not 100% sure, but I know your growing season is super, super short in zone 3, and many people can't grow those tomatoes. So one thing that I would do personally if I was in zone 3 is risk the health of the plant and have a really large root-bound plant, but one that's ready to go outside, that's about a foot tall, so that you can have that head start. You might not get as much yield, but you're at least going to get a yield, versus someone that waits till it's actually about 4 to 5 weeks before your last frost date before starting, because you won't have any yields at all by the time your plant matures. So that's just kind of my tip for you. Take it or leave it. I would also recommend starting cherries. Don't start large tomatoes, because those are typically 90 to 100 days, and the chances of getting a large ripe tomato or many large ripe tomatoes is slim to none. So small cherry tomatoes that ripen in 50 to 60 days, that's a big thumbs up for me. I would recommend starting those. From what I've seen on the internet and the research that I've done, the cold weather stuff, again, 3 to 4 weeks, maybe 5 to play it more on the safe side, but I don't think you're gonna have a problem with that. And then, zone 2, I got nothing for you. I have not done enough research to tell you what to do in zone 2. I know that's like Alaska, parts of Alaska, and personally, I don't know enough to be able to really give you some good advice. I would follow pretty closely to zone 3. I guess I could give you some advice for zone 2. If you live in zone 2, basically follow zone 3 by about a week to a week and a half. Just trail what I said for zone 3 by about that much, and it should be fairly good advice. I don't think it changes that much from zone 3 to zone 2 once you get up there. So I hope you all enjoyed. Hopefully you all are growing big or going home, or dreaming of growing big or going home in my case. And I'll talk to you all later. I got stuff I got to do, but hopefully that helps you out, and I'll talk to you all later. And also, I'll post the links to the Facebook and the Google Plus community in the description box below in case you're interested in checking those out. We got a lot of stuff going on already. People are really hyped up and really excited. And if you're not a part of those communities yet, I would highly recommend it. So I will catch you all later. This is Luke from MIgardener. See ya. Bye.